Today, the left melts down over more babies being born, and child abuse continues to be normalized at pride parades. We've got that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Monday. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by BlazeTV contributor John Doyle, also host of Heck Off Commie, which you should be subscribed to. I hear every once in a while he puts out content. I just thought I'd just get that in there, just a little. He's really happy to be here today. Also joined by host of Sanity Check, Lily Kate. It is her maiden voyage on the program. I promise that we don't bite very hard.
That's okay.
So you're
in Texas, you can't be that bad.
So I want to get into first all of this, the reaction from the left over, of course, the idea that more babies will be born. I think like people go back and forth because we had this conversation even at the end of last week. Now that the new decision is out, Will there be less abortions? Some people argue no, because these people are just going to go to California or New York or a place where they do allow it, because obviously this doesn't actually ban abortion. It leaves it up to the states. But then there are some people who say, well, no, it still will happen. There are women who are too poor to afford it, even though now it's like all of these mega corporations are offering to pay money. Conveniently enough, they're really in it for the cause. They will pay for you to go get an abortion, and it just so happens that it's like actually cheaper for them than having you on maternity leave.
Right.
But don't worry, they definitely have your best interest in mind. So I want to get into the reaction that took place over the weekend. Obviously, a lot of protesting in front of the Supreme Court building. Also in LA, which I was very confused about, because I'm like, you guys like can still get abortions probably up until like 2 minutes before the baby's born. So I think you guys are good, but I feel like they also just never miss an excuse to riot. But I want to get your thoughts, guys, on the reaction that happened over the weekend. Let's go ahead and play from our friend Drew Hernandez over at Turning Point. He got a video of pro-abortion protesters in D.C. right after Roe versus Wade was overturned on Friday, and they just immediately just start crying at the thought of not being able to kill their own babies. Watch. And it wasn't just them. There was a gentleman that Drew encountered. It got pretty hostile pretty quick. And then I think the man, like the demon that was possessing this man, just like took over his body. And you can see that viscerally in his reaction. Watch.
Let's have a conversation. Calm down.
Let's incite. No, let's not have a conversation.
Calm down,
worthless little sack of.
I guess the pandemic's over. What's wrong, sir? You like killing babies? You love killing babies?
I love killing babies.
You love killing babies, huh?
Oh, wow.
I mean, if that doesn't just say it right there.
He said it with a growl, too.
Yeah.
There was a snarl in there.
Yeah, that was a
Well,
demon.
that's the thing. They're not denying that it's a life anymore, ever at all. I mean, they will call it a baby. They will call it a life. There's a TikTok I reacted to where this girl said, I would be totally fine with throwing myself down the stairs or jumping out of a plane if I was pregnant and I wanted to kill my child. And it's like, you're not even just putting one life in danger, you're now ready to put both in danger. So I'm like, what kind of religious sacrament is happening under the skin that we're not seeing?
Yeah, I mean, really, John.
Well, now it's just that abortion's going to have to take place in the back alley with the rest of the murder, because see, that's a good one. A good, clean, family-friendly joke. But it's true, and like I remember I made this point on the show a few months ago when this was first announced, or maybe when it was leaked or something a few weeks ago, that I'm not really all that concerned about women who put their lives in danger by pursuing like methods to kill their own children. It's like if you break into my house with a gun, you forfeit your like right to life at that point. It's more or less up in the air. So if they're pursuing abortions that are more dangerous, purely because they want to kill their child, a rational person who's not possessed or influenced by a demon would probably probably view that as like a deterrent. But if they're willing to go to that length, and I wish them well, but I'm also not going to lose sleep over it.
Well, and that's the thing too. They're always like, well, abortion's going to be, you just ban safe abortion. You know, they're gonna be so dangerous. And it's like, yes, that's the point. They should be dangerous. They should, as you said, be a deterrent. We're not trying to make them safe and legal. You know, we're trying to make them unsafe so people don't actually want to get it, because most people think that what is legal is okay. And so kind of to answer your first question that you had right at the beginning, I think there will be, you know, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but in the long term, obviously way less abortion, especially in, of course, states where it's banned, because you're going to have to go to such extreme measures to actually get one that most people aren't going to commit.
Can you believe in a first world country that we actually inconvenience our women in order for them to have to kill their own children? Can you
just so
believe
they
it?
can go back to work at the law clerk factory.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting because I think it was AOC. Well, I'm sure many people said this, but AOC in particular was like, more people will die as a result of this ruling. And I'm like, no, literally, it's the opposite, actually. Like, and so totally cool with the entire goal of the performed procedure is death. So somehow that's okay, but then you want to say now you're concerned with more people dying. It's not computing.
And along with that, I was at a pride parade, my very first one this past weekend, and there were a lot of naked men there. Not too fun. But we were talking to one woman, I think, about Roe, and we asked her, what do you think about it? And she said, oh, I don't like it, women's right to choose. And then I said, well, actually, it's going back down to the states. So what do you think about the states that are going to outlaw the ones who are not? And she said, well, I think the progressive states who are keeping abortion legal are really thinking of the future. And I said, aren't children the future? And then she said, we can agree to disagree.
No, we don't agree to disagree. That's just like an undisputed fact. Like, who else is the future? We're all gonna die. Who else is the future? I wanna get to a couple more and get your reactions. I mentioned that, of course, in LA, it got much uglier. Rioters were attacking police officers and, throwing some sort of Molotov cocktail, I don't know, some sort of flaming objects at them. Let's watch some of that. Always lovely seeing what Democrats do to Democrat-run cities. So I actually went to one of the protests here in Dallas. Several of us went. My producer was there. Elijah Schaefer was there. And it was just like, it's one thing to watch these videos and to see these women it's just like the complete degradation of society, but it's another thing to just experience it in real life. And at one point after the march, where they were screaming all sorts of curse words and stuff, they decided to twerk for abortions. I don't know. There was a lot going on. I want to play some of Elijah's clips. So, I mean, literally they got on the loudspeaker and they were like, now to finish, what we're going to do is we're going to twerk. And we're like, wait.
Only the hoes are mad about
what does that have to do with your right? Oh, that was an interesting place to stop it. So it's like, it's just so gross to be around. You feel like you need a bunch of showers. And super alarming that while they were marching, I noticed, I took a couple pictures, as they were chanting, of course, disgusting things like F Greg Abbott and, your laws ain't S word, you can't find the clit. Stuff that I would say any good, maybe even mediocre parent wouldn't want their child hearing, and yet I see all of these young children in the crowd. There's two right there marching with their mothers, and but you know what? There's another one. You know what? I guess that's better than the woman who showed up with her newborn. I'm like, do you realize how weird this is?
Yeah, they're like literally the most miserable people on the face of the planet. It's because they're living not in accordance with the natural order of things. That's why they're melting down so much about the prospect of having to have a child. It's because liberalism at its core, or leftism in general, is all about like being able to literally do whatever you want. That's why communism is like, you can do whatever you want. We'll even like pay for it. The sexual revolution, anything is we need to be able to do whatever we want, whenever we want it. We're not going to be constrained by biology, religion, anything like that. And so even the idea that they might have to take responsibility for their actions in the form of a child, even that is so appalling to them, because it's like everything included, right? Responsibility for my actions, this idea of the patriarchy demanding that women must have children. They absolutely hate that, and that's why they melt down. I don't know if it's like a blood memory or just like young male instinct, but nothing makes me happier than seeing these people just like cry and melt down and getting like, manhandled by police officers. And even in LA of all places, they were like beating the crap out of these protesters. The one, I don't know if there was another clip, I think in LA, of a guy who had held up some sort of aerosol can with a lighter and tried to like spray the police with fire to get them back.
He was charged for murder.
No.
So, yes, he was charged with attempted murder, and then somebody tried to unarrest him, like one of their comrades tried to prevent the police from arresting him, got arrested themselves, and this is really interesting. Their bail was set at $25,000. They were bailed out almost immediately. So one of the things that we never talk about is how much money there is, this like dark money that gets poured into these organizations that literally just stand back and stand by and wait to bail these people out of jail for attempting to murder police officers. But that being said, I think the energy shifted, and I'm enjoying watching it.
Do you agree?
That the energy shifted? Yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly one, might be because I'm a woman. I don't like violence as much as maybe men do, and I think it's probably good that the men are the ones who are going off to war and attacking the protesters. But I think that, again, it's a religious sacrament, like you said. We've lost the meaning of freedom, and all of this is an attack on the true definition of freedom, which I believe is defined as Galatians 5:13, the ability to do what you ought to do for your community, your church, your country, etc. And that's what the sexual revolution has brought around, this idea of I want to disconnect sex from the creation of life. And so if we can do everything we can to keep sex its own thing, its own pleasurable thing, because again, these pride parades, it's not about acceptance. It's not about expressing my inner self. It's about weird licentiousness and inverted sexual order. And so, John, you're exactly right. It's all about inverting order, but then also attacking freedom at the same time.
Yeah, I often, people ask why, I should say people often ask, why are conservative women so much hotter than liberal women? And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to comment on that, but
I'll take it.
Well, yeah, but I will say, it's just they're just so angry. But then it's but wouldn't you be angry too if, to your point, John, if you were living a lie, if you were trying to live in a way that God didn't create you to live, right? You're not supposed to be doing that. You're not supposed to be killing your own children. You're supposed to be nurturing your own children. That's what happens because you are not living, as you said, John, that you're not living within your role. That's not what you were meant to. You were not meant to be the patriarchy, right? And so it's I would imagine you would have a lot of anger built up inside of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are not my beliefs, but I will reiterate a tweet that I saw from Isabella Riley. She said that all of the most happy women in the world are always oppressed by men. First, their fathers, who then hand them off to their husbands. Again, this is not my belief. However, my observation would suggest that that's more or less the case. I don't know what you guys
I would agree with that.
What do you mean by oppressed, though? I genuinely, I don't know the context.
Not literally oppressed, but just
it was said tongue in cheek, right? You're so oppressed.
Well, maybe a little bit less tongue in cheek than you would think, but under the the strong guidance of their father and then their husband. And
husband being the head of the family.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I would definitely agree. We were a lot happier until radical feminism started cropping up and us, defying all the men and destroying the patriarchy.
Yeah, so. And now the men are all women.
But what's really also interesting and kind of going along with the natural order thing, right? There's a big list of all these companies who are going to fund you going to get an abortion. Tesla, Facebook or Meta, Chase Bank, you have Bank of America, the list goes on, Dick's Sporting Goods, of course. And you can probably take it to the bank that half of the executives, or maybe a little less than that, but at least half of the executives are women that have fallen for the lie and said, you know what, career is everything. I don't have a family, I don't have any community, I don't go to church, but all that stuff doesn't make me happy. But the company climbing the corporate ladder is going to make me happy. So therefore, I'm going to use my political power to make other women as miserable as possible so they can also come back to the company and make the company more profits. And so it's just miserable creates miserable, and miserable also inflicts miserable on other people, and they don't want women to be feminine. They don't want women to be happy.
Yeah, amen. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We've got more to come. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile. So, look, Patriot Mobile is the only conservative wireless provider. I'm just going to cut to the chase here. Stop giving your money to companies who hate you, okay? They're not only in your camp, they also are donating a portion of your bill to causes that you would want it to go to, causes like, pro-life causes, causes that want to make sure that you get to keep and bear arms. Patriot Mobile is on our side, and we have to make sure that we are partnering with these companies because the left really wants you out of existence. Patriot Mobile does not. They've got a 100% US-based customer support team. They've got great customer support. They've got nationwide service. It's the same towers that everyone uses, so you're still going to be getting great service, knowing that you are not giving your money to people who hate you. You got to go to patriotmobile.com/news. You can get free activation with the offer code NEWS. By the way, if you're a veteran or first responder, you're going to save even more. It is patriotmobile.com/news. Going back to all of these protests, it was interesting because there have been several independent reporters who have gone out and asked these protesters a very simple question. I've seen Alex Stein do it. We have this clip I'm about to play is Aldo Bottazzoni, who of course has appeared on this program, and it is this. If you believe in abortion, what about vaccine mandates? If you believe it is your body and your choice, how do you feel about vaccine mandates? And this one in particular is very interesting. It's like you can see the gears slowly turning in this, I want to say woman's head. It's like, she's about to, I think she's going to need a reboot. Watch.
Bodily autonomy is the legal reason that I am here today.
So as somebody that supports bodily autonomy, what is your thoughts on the federally mandated vaccines? Do you think people should have a choice what to put in their body?
I think it's a disingenuous comparison.
Why?
Because vaccines are a part of just a societal good, that are a general good that are supporting other people.
Not kids, though.
But that's your opinion. People on that side say that they should have a choice what to put in their bodies. How is that not bodily autonomy? Should jobs be able to fire you if you're getting an abortion? Free market.
That's why I think healthcare should be private.
Just like vaccines. That's healthcare. So what's the difference? Why should people have bodily autonomy on this issue but not the vaccine?
Got him.
I love, she's like, like, lady, have you really never considered this before? It's so annoying to me because if you want to make the my body, my choice argument, like, the only one that actually has merit is the one on vaccines. That actually is your own body. John, my head's about to explode.
Well, I can tell you seem frustrated. All these problems would go away if we just remove these people from society. Like, you just, seriously, like, just disenfranchise them, prevent them from voting. They clearly don't have agency. Install some form of test, a prerequisite as a means to actually, like, achieve the privilege as it was supposed to be to vote. Whether it's based on your tax status, you have to pay more into the system than you take out of it, something like that. There are proxies that we can implement to make sure that these people are never in charge again, because it's not even like a debate. It's not like the first 4 years of Bush versus first 4 years of Obama, where it's like a back and forth. Every metric by which you would measure a healthy society is worse under 2 years of Brandon. So we ran the experiment. We found out this doesn't work. So let's try to re-embark from an actually effective framework.
What do you think about landowners being able to vote?
I think that's probably a good metric.
I love it.
The thing is,
I've experimented mentally with that a few times.
Yeah, I love it. I think it
now
makes sense.
That I don't like is only because it's difficult for people our age to go about, and probably even your age, to go about purchasing property relative to like the boomer generation, just because of the way everything has happened. So I would first want to see tax status, but I mean, there could be a checklist, married with children, because you have a future stake in society, so you're probably going to have better or more at least refined judgment. So, if you have children, own property, or are a net taxpayer, like any one of those I think would be better than just like our democracy and
anything to exclude college students is what I'm hearing.
Well, I didn't go to college.
Yeah, me either.
Well, but I mean, I think that you could easily say that's a clear conflict of interest. If you are receiving more from the government that you're paying in, that's a conflict of interest to continue receiving more free money. I would say that's the baseline. They would be well within their rights to say like, hey, you can't vote. This is a conflict of interest.
That's where it gets a little tricky, Sarah, because they'll call you racist for that.
I understand.
Sense, for whatever reason.
Our sacred democracy, Sarah.
Right. They're welcome to call me whatever the hell they want. By the way, John, they do anyway. So I don't really care.
It's true. I'm an angel, and they call me so many mean things.
You are an angel. It's true.
It hurts my feelings. But for whatever reason, I don't know why this is, but the only group of people in this country who pays more into the system than they take out are white people and Asian people, for whatever reason. And so I think if we actually went that route initially, even though it does make the most sense and it's probably the easiest, they would, of course, call us racist for that. But also, actually, never mind. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Well, that was an abrupt ending.
Yeah. Well, I
love that John starts to say something and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to get too much pushback for that one. I better stop talking
Sometimes
now."
I get in trouble.
I want to throw into the conversation AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who, of course, was protesting just hours after SCOTUS made their announcement. We played a little bit of her, I would say, kind of like inciting something, I don't know, yelling for people to go into the streets. All I'm saying is Donald Trump said for people to peacefully make their voices heard and got accused of all sorts of stuff. So I would say what she said applies, but she jumped in when they were sharing stories, their abortion stories. She jumped in, of course, never one to miss the spotlight, with a story of her own. Watch.
I myself, when I was about 22 or 23 years old, was raped while I was living here in New York City. I was completely alone. I felt completely alone. In fact, I felt so alone that I had to take a pregnancy test in a public bathroom in Midtown Manhattan. And when I sat there waiting for what the result would be, all I could think was, thank God I have at least a choice. Thank God I could at least have the freedom to choose my destiny.
I don't think that was God.
We're going to have to excommunicate her from the Catholic Church. Also, I don't believe that story.
I was going to say, yeah.
So if you get raped, you're like, I was 22 or 23 years old. I don't know. I don't remember.
Why haven't we heard about this, the moment she started running for office?
Well, they've had many abortion conversations. Like, this is the first time that this has just happened to come up.
Precisely.
Yeah, I know. I hate to say it. Look, as someone who has had, a sexual assault survivor, I guess you would say, I don't try to make a big production out of it. But I'm just saying, like, you typically remember how old you were when that happens. So I don't buy it either. But, it's just sad because they continually make this argument that, they say like, well, why don't you why aren't you adopting kids? Well, why don't you adopt them then? It's like, I'm sorry, this is a completely disingenuous argument. Are you saying that it's nicer to the baby to kill it before it comes out of the mom rather than make it have hardships in life? Like,
they've been so bought out by materialism that they try and say if the baby has a chance of having maybe not as good of a life as me, Texas middle class, two-parent household, right? They're trying to say, if that baby can't have a really cool life and just have all these material items, then they're better off dead. And that's a really ugly argument to make, and that's why they always, wrap it up in my body, my choice, or it's a woman's right, because, they've been bought out by materialism.
Yeah, it really is like, I just can't fathom have they ever critically thought about what that statement actually means? You know what I mean? I'm like, how can you make this statement in good faith?
They're not, because they're not acting in good faith because they're like literally possessed by demons. And that's why, they'll say that. And it's true. The ratio of couples waiting to adopt kids.
It's 28, 30,
exactly.
6 or something.
It's astronomically high. Like they're literally lined up, even for Down syndrome babies, which isn't to say they're less, desirable, just that there's a higher, I guess, level of, responsibility required there for some couples. So they're like ready. But the thing that's really selfish that they won't ever admit on camera is that the reason they don't want to just like have the baby and put it up for adoption is because they would rather kill their own child than have it be out in the world and them not have that influence in their lives.
And you constantly hear the cope, well, I just don't want to do that to my body. And it's like, well,
you're ugly anyways. Look at these women.
You said it, not me, but I agree.
Sometimes I really think that's what it is. Like you see these like land whales and they're out there and just talking about, I need an abortion. And it's like, what are you trying to implicate? That like you are just so popular sexually that you just need this on standby just because you never know what's going to happen. Or I think also it's like leftover women who are in their like 40s and they're still not married yet. And I think they're just like doing this because if they, for whatever reason, did get pregnant, they know that no man would ever want to commit to them because they're so horrible. So they want to make sure that their ability to get out of that is available to them. You can literally see.
Yeah, are you saying that that's not your thing?
You can see the pain and confusion in that woman's eyes. You can literally see it. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's a very desperate woman, and it's a very unfortunate situation that she's been placed into by the society. But I sympathize with her. I do.
It really is. It's sad, but it's also enraging at the same time to see how many women have bought into this lie. All right, we got to take another quick break. First, we want to thank our sponsor, First Liberty. So court packing. There is no better time to talk about this than right now. The left is already talking about how do we get exactly what it is we want, which is all the radical things, not to mention abortion, but there are so many things that they are trying to do, and packing the Supreme Court is their answer to how they're going to do it. We got to stop them. They're going to rig the system in their favor, and obviously if they did that, it would be catastrophic for our entire way of life. We cannot let that happen. That is why First Liberty needs you to join them. They are gathering a coalition of 1 million patriots to say no to court packing, no to all of it, no to the liberal agenda, no to the Supreme Court coup. You will be in the ranks of like over 400,000 other people, other patriots just like you, who are all on board. All they're asking you to do is go and sign your name. That's it. All you got to do is sign your name over at SupremeCoup, that's COUP.com, to sign First Liberty's letter. It'll take you just a minute, and they want to send a message, all right? That is SupremeCoup.com. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi appeared to elbow the daughter of newly elected Congresswoman Mayra Flores here in Texas during her swearing-in ceremony. This was last week, but the video just surfaced. So let's watch this. It shows Pelosi waving her arms. Here we go. And then she looks, sees the little girl there, elbows her. I mean, quite clearly. And there's a video that that's on Twitter. I posted it if you guys want to go look, that slows it down in slow motion, and it really is pretty clear. She looks, can you play it one more time, Stephen? She looks and looks at the girl there and pushes her.
The problem is she's so old and senile that she can't like argue, oh, I was just trying to get in a cute pose. It's like you've been in front of the cameras long enough that, this isn't a pose for the gram.
And she didn't stay that way. Like, she moved her arm back to the front. This appears to be, I'm not in the head of Nancy Pelosi, thank God. But this appears to be like a likely intoxicated, inebriated Nancy Pelosi who just wants to pick on a little kid who
child
happens
of
to
color,
be,
by the way.
Thank you. Who happens to be, that's what I was going to say, who happens to be Hispanic because of the fact that her mom is a Republican. That's what I'm getting from this. Am I off base?
You know what? I would even extend it as far as to say that given the results of the policies from Nancy Pelosi's coalition on particularly minority communities, I would even argue that she intentionally assaulted that child of color, and she should probably be charged appropriately and thrown to Guantanamo Bay.
Cheers to that.
I guess it shouldn't come as a surprise. Like, they just hate children.
In the womb, right. And we've seen it outside of the womb.
Yeah,
now. Disregarding them like that.
It's like, look, you know what? Let's go ahead and I want to throw into the conversation here while we're talking about the left hating children. in the womb, if they don't get you in the womb, they want to make sure to vaccinate them with, as we know, the safest and most effective vaccine in the history of the country. It's just that there's no long-term studies, and we're just like, let's give it to our children. And then on top of that, if they don't get you there, and they don't get you there, if you still are, in fact, a child who is still with us, they're definitely going to expose you to all of this sexual content and make you a weird, perverted, crazy person, just like they are. So I have a video I'm going to play, which I just really makes me like very angry, and I'm going to try really hard to keep the swear jar right here and not have to pick it up and not have to donate it to it later. This is the Boy Scouts marching in the Seattle Pride Parade, and I just want to say, for clarification, right in front of them marching is a naked male. So I just want to make that clear. Let's watch the lovely Boy Scouts marching. Yeah, that's...
It's not even the right pride flag.
This is so enraging. I can't, like...
But you're right. If you can't kill them and you can't vaccinate them
right
out the wazoo, then you should be able to pervert them and corrupt them and then weaponize them. Because if a child believes something that is contrary to reality, like men can become women or women can become men, if you tell them that from a young age, you have to do less explaining to them later in life why that doesn't make sense. Because you didn't grow up with this, so you're thinking this is absurd. People in my generation were like, okay, cool, because we don't know anything else. We have no life experience to rub this falsity against up against. So if you indoctrinate a kid from a young age, then you don't have to make sense of all the ideology that you're telling them later in life.
Yeah, I feel like that was a low-key hit at my age.
Probably.
No.
It's like, well, you're old. You're old. You don't know what this is like.
It's a very audacious move to insult the host the first episode you appear on.
Really?
Right.
John wouldn't know anything about that, would he? John would never know anything about that. He just spent like the whole episode just crapping all over me, and I was like, it's really rude, but I kind of like it. Go ahead.
I was in Boy Scouts.
Yeah,
I never made it to Eagle Scout because I just didn't. But now I feel vindicated a little bit. There was something, I guess, that I picked up on in terms of the trajectory of it. But I think that this is probably just like a humiliation ritual. I mean, think of how many men in this country were involved in Boy Scouts, not even when they were kids, but when they're now like fathers and they're getting involved with their sons. To see something like that, and like the organization that was supposed to be about like building disciplined, strong Christian men is now waving flags that represent anal sex while you're walking through. Literally, that's what it is. And you're like walking through and your son is holding that flag. Like that is demoralizing. It makes you depressed. It makes you in despair. And it's like that's another thing that they've taken away. And the reason why they have to do it with the Boy Scouts or with any sort of like male institution, they say, well, we need to have girls too because equality. And it's not because we don't want girls involved. It's because boys are stupid. And so if girls show up, they're going to like get distracted and they can't focus. And it's like, because every time you've had a group of young guys together, that's when history is changed. Like everything cool that's ever happened has happened because young guys got together and got hyper-focused on a particular goal. And because this regime wants to maintain power, they know that they have to do whatever is under the scope of their jurisdiction to make sure that those groups of guys can't get together and stay focused on something. They have to be focused on being tolerant, promoting equality, genital mutilation, abortion, anal sex, vaccines, all these other things just to prevent young guys from just growing up normally.
Which is so annoying because it's not about equality. They have the Girl Scouts. I was in Brownies. I was in Girl Scouts.
You guys also outsell us too.
Yeah.
No one cares about the popcorn.
Yeah, right. Because, well, I mean, I would say we're not outselling you because like people like us more. It's just the product is way better.
Yeah.
The product is way better. Of course, I don't buy them anymore.
Come on, you can't.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just like it's the same thing with the transgender, so the men in women's sports. It's like, no, this isn't about equality. If it was about equality, you would be asking for your own league, right? This isn't about equality. This is about you trying to create a different world in which you are more superior at the end of the day. I mean, what else could it be?
Feminism has absolutely turned into a women's supremacy movement. I mean, that's what happened probably after the third wave when they really started getting serious about embracing the gender ideology and the crossing of actual sexes. Of course, that obviously started in the 60s with the theoretical sexual revolution and all that. But after the third wave, of feminism. They were like, well, so we have the ability to flaunt our bodies wherever. We have all the rights we could ever ask for. We have all the corporate and political power, access to it at least, that we could ever have. So what else do we need?
Right.
We need to be better than men. We need to be able to have men kneel in front of us and us just beat them over the head and tell them everything that we want them to do. And you're right, distract them and use that against men, because men, will build society and women raise the society.
And then they had that. Then I think you could argue it was it's a black supremacy movement, and now we're the LGBT supremacy movement.
And it's almost like that's what Karl Marx wanted. One group to be on top, one group to be on bottom, and a constant revolution happening. Because feminism, that's what I mostly talk about, has totally been infused with Marxist financial principles, because you're supposed to have a group on the top, which is always the straight white man, and you have the group on the bottom, which in this case would be all women are oppressed, and so the women have to overthrow the men. If you grow up with that framework, you have no other choice but to go toward revolution and wanting to overthrow men, and they think they're doing that exact thing.
Yeah. All right, we got to take another quick break. First, we want to thank our sponsor, this segment, Bioptimizers. They just released a new and improved formula for Magnesium Breakthrough, the most powerful magnesium supplement on the market today. This is a new 4th-generation formula. It means Magnesium Breakthrough is now even more potent and effective for reducing stress, improving sleep, boosting energy levels. This includes cofactors like B6 and manganese that help with the absorption of magnesium so that you are getting better absorption. Magnesium is involved in 80% of the body's metabolic reactions, and 75% of people are not getting enough magnesium, which leads to poor sleep, low energy, high stress levels. You don't want that, all right? In every bottle of Magnesium Breakthrough, you'll get 7 unique forms of full spectrum magnesium, which can dramatically improve your health, help you sleep longer and deeper. We all need that, trust me, myself included, and reduce stress. Magnesium Breakthrough can help you to finally feel like yourself again. You take 2 capsules before you go to bed, and you'll be amazed at all of the improvements. You got to go to magbreakthrough.com/news for an exclusive offer. You can use promo code NEWS. You will save 10% and get free shipping. That is magbreakthrough.com/news, promo code NEWS. A new report says that Joe Biden inadvertently financed hunters' connections with a Russia-linked escort ring. This is, you know what? I would say I'm surprised, but I would be lying. Biden wired Hunter, who is now, of course, 52 years old, $100,000 to help him pay bills from December 2018 through January 2019. And look, by the way, they found this from the records on the laptop that Hunter stupidly left at the computer repair shop and didn't remember any of it. So Hunter had spent more than $30,000 on sex workers between November 2018 and March 2019, according to all of these records, including many linked to Russia-based email addresses and connected to an exclusive model agency over in Russia. So Joe wired Hunter $5,000 while his son was actively engaged with one escort, and was also convinced to send another $20,000 to pay for his stay at a New York drug rehabilitation program that never came to fruition. And by the way, Hunter is still under investigation, federal investigation, for possible tax fraud stemming from his overseas business dealings. And look, Joe Biden keeps saying, I don't know what my son's doing. I'm not involved in any of that. I'm not involved in any of these conversations. But of course, there is the fact that his Hunter's business associates visited the White House and other official venues only 27 times during the Obama administration.
Well, they're done with Joe Biden. He's become a liability, and so they've had this information since they got the laptop in September 2020 or something ridiculous. They've had this information. They're now only choosing to use it because, first of all, they know they're going to get wrecked in the midterms, but they're done with Joe Biden. I mean, he's old. He's making us look terrible, more than intentionally him doing so, and they know he's a liability, and so they're going to get rid of him now because they have enough on him to get rid of him for good.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel that way. The media is no longer carrying his water.
I don't know. I almost wonder if they're only covering it as much as as necessary to defer like further investigation. It's kind of like with the Epstein thing. What really happened there is much more interesting than the story that we were all told by, like, you know, the Fox News or the New York Post articles that were written about it. I almost wonder if like the Hunter Biden thing being covered is that sort of red herring to distract from like what's really going on with his business dealings and the types of escorts he's actually seeing and how that connects to everybody else. Because I think that he's not the only person in Washington, D.C. or who's linked to Washington, D.C. who's living a lifestyle like that.
Well, but also like when Donald Trump was president, any sort of connection to Russia was like the biggest deal in the entire world. And now Hunter's over there hiring high-end Russian escorts, and everyone's like, oh no, listen, it's not Joe, okay? You don't pay attention to anything that their children do. I'm like, did you guys live in the last 4 years where anything Trump Jr. or Ivanka or anyone did was like the biggest deal, even though it really wasn't? Oh, okay. I was waiting for one of you to react.
I mean, I agree. It's true.
So true, Sarah.
So okay. So what happens to Joe? What do they do? Because it's like, how do they get out of this optics-wise? Obviously he doesn't run for re-election if that's what happens, or does something else more sinister happen? And if so, how do you not have Kamala as the person at that point?
Everyone hates her.
Well, I know, but what do you do?
They don't have anybody. And
I know.
If you look at like what passes for charisma on the left, I saw like this TikTok guy that went viral or something, and he was like, you know, spurging out. I don't know if I can say that, but he was just like, oh, Roe v. Wade. He was like freaking out. So it's always men who are acting very effeminate, and it's very off-putting because they're acting like, you know, little bitches. Or you have women who are only capable of speaking like they're talking to children, like how Kamala speaks to people, Elizabeth Warren, just this very like passive-aggressive. And the average American is very off-put by that. So the Democrats, like quite literally, even as bad as Joe Biden is, they don't have anybody who is as at least palatable or as palatable as Joe Biden, other than maybe Gavin Newsom. That guy actually scares me, because if there's one thing that's going to get white liberal women to turn out, it's a like charismatic, relatively good-looking guy like Gavin Newsom. Even despite the fact that his record is terrible, that guy actually scares me a little bit.
Yeah. So what do you think, though? Like, I just feel like, I mean, I guess in every way they're just kind of screwed, because I'm
just going to sit here and enjoy and watch them scramble rather than give them strategic advice, because, I mean, honestly, they're just giving us points, and Joe Biden is a constant source of entertainment, as much as he is wrecking the country. And, you know, once a president gets back on track, he'll be able to save a little bit, but you know, we all just go with it, I guess.
Yeah, laugh so you don't cry. Yeah, we do that a lot.
Laughing through the fall of the republic.
Yeah, we do that a lot on this program. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back with more. I mean, I genuinely, Ghislaine Maxwell has been put on suicide watch ahead of her sentencing, but her attorney says that she is not suicidal. This is all, I feel some deja vu coming on right here. Her attorney released a letter on Saturday stating that they may seek to delay Tuesday's sentencing. The postponement may be necessary because Maxwell was put on suicide watch on Friday and then abruptly moved from the general prison population to solitary confinement. By the way, they say that she was moved without any clothing, toothpaste, soap, legal papers, etc. She was provided a suicide smock and is given a few sheets of toilet paper on request, and was put on suicide watch without having conducted a psychological evaluation and without justification.
It's not the only middle-aged white woman on suicide watch in this country anymore. It's not. I mean, all the...
Maybe it was the Supreme Court news that pushed her over the edge.
Yeah, probably. Just like, I won't be able to like, oh no, I can only open portals through killing children when they're out of the womb, not in the womb anymore. Oh no, that's probably her exact conversation with herself.
I feel like this is the stuff that it's like, this is why conspiracy theorists exist. You hear this stuff and you're like...
Right.
Well, it's not a
6 to 9 months is, spoiler alerts, is when it turns in from a conspiracy theory to a spoiler.
This has always been a thing. Like, ritual human sacrifice has always been a thing, and now it's considered a medical procedure, but it's still like an actual thing. And yeah, I think that if you were to sit down and think to yourself, like, I wonder if all of the energy behind the pro-abortion movement were coming from like demons. I wonder what the people who take to the streets would look like. And then you go outside and it looks exactly like that. And so you can call that a coincidence, or you can think maybe there's something to that.
Lily, for your first time on the program, it's been a pleasure. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Oh, you can find me Instagram at It's Lily Kate, or TikTok. Or Instagram, Sanity Check USA, if you want to see all the coverage from the Houston Pride Parade.
Oh, awesome. So make sure that you follow her. Also, John Doyle, Heck Off Commie. Make sure that you're subscribed to him as well. That's it for us. We will see you guys tomorrow.